Hi, my name is Ling Li. Thank you, Dr. Dai, giving me the opportunity that I can present our topic to you who are watching the video. I'm going to talk about the falling strategy for the ACL injury prevention. We all know that most of ACL injuries are associated with non-contact conditions, unbalanced postures such as one-foot landing. Here, take Clay Thompson as an example. He landed on his single leg with small knee flexion angle. Previous study have been demonstrated that small knee flexion angles and increased anterior shear force are strongly associated with knee loading. Developing effective landing strategies that target knee loading mechanisms has implications for the ACL injury prevention. The soft landing has been suggested as a strategy to reduce the risk of ACL injuries. The soft landing was characterized by increased knee and hip flexion and decreased impact force. However, most of studies just focus on the effectiveness of double-legged soft landings. Few studies have examined the instruction of single-leg soft landings on biomechanics. Well, the previous study showed that single-leg landings could result in a greater knee loading compared to the double-leg landings. It could be related to the lower extremity strength, which limited the peak joint angles that participant could achieve in a standing posture without falling. So it's unknown whether the single leg soft landing could decrease the knee loading. Rolling is another landing technique, which is a very important skill in parkour. So look at this guy, he's landing softly with a rolling action from the feet to the hands towards the back. A study involving the parkour showed that the roll landing could decrease the downward and forward velocities over a longer time, which was likely to decrease the knee loading. The recent two studies have recommended that falling as a landing strategy after excessive mid-flight trunk motion because the constraint of keeping center of mass over the feet might make individuals to increase the knee loading when they land with a stance posture. So the purpose of our study was compare the knee flexion angles, peak impact forces, and peak knee extension moments among the natural landings, soft landings, and falling in forward and vertical landings under double leg and single leg conditions. We had two hypotheses. The first one, soft landing could result in increased knee flexion angles and decreased impact forces and peak knee extension moments compared to natural landings. Second, falling would have the same result when it compared to the soft landings and natural landings. 16 males and 16 females participated in our study. The inclusion criteria were they had jump landing experience and physical activity. The primary exclusion criteria was they can't have the extremity surgery or the recently extremities injuries. Participants perform the forward and vertical landing task with a dominant leg or the both leg, and the 16 reflective markers were placed on each subject's body for the kinematic data. For the forward landing task, participants need to jump from this 30 centimeter high box that placed half of participants' height from the force plate. For the natural landing, participants landed as they would in a sport setting. For the soft landing, participants landed as softly as possible with increased knee and hip flexion. For the falling, participants initially landed softly and smoothly fell forward and rolled to their hands and shoulders. The vertical landing task defined as jumping vertically and touching the basketball that's set at 75% of max jump height. And the mat was used in the falling conditions. For each landing task, dependent variables were compared among the three different techniques using the repeated meta analysis followed by the pair t-tags. The result is here. So here are the independent variables, 3 different landing techniques in the forward and the vertical landings under the double or single leg conditions. Here are the dependent variables: knee flexion angles at initial contact, peak knee flexion angles during the early landing, peak impacted forces during the early landing, and the peak knee extension moments during the early landing. We have the A and B and C to indicate the significant difference, which A is greater than B is greater than C. Generally speaking, falling had the greatest knee flexion angles, and the second greatest was the soft landing. For the peak impact forces and the peak knee extension moments, falling was the least, and the second least for the soft landing. But under the single leg soft landing conditions, some of them didn't have significant difference compared to the natural landing. So from above, we can find that the soft landing could result in a decreased knee loading compared to the double leg landings, and the soft landing techniques could have limited effects for significant for the single leg landings compared to the double leg landings. Compare the falling and both landings. For forward landing task, natural and soft landings require participants to complete stop at the end of the landings. The forward velocities was largely decreased with downward velocities, result in a greater posterior ground reaction force. On the other hand, in the falling condition, a large amount of the forward velocities was likely maintained and result in decreased posterior ground reaction force during the early landing. In addition, falling allowed the participant to have a greater range of the motion in the vertical direction. This facilitated the greater force dissipation in the vertical direction, as well as through the contact between the body and the surface. For the vertical landing task, the target was designed to be placed slightly behind the participant's head, which could produce the external knee flexion moments. Participants in the falling didn't have to resist it compared to the natural and soft landings, because falling allowed participants to move their center of mass behind their feet. So the effectiveness of soft landings in reducing knee loading was limited for single leg landings compared to double leg landings. Falling demonstrated that landing biomechanics associated with the least knee loading compared to the both natural and the soft landings. When the sports environment alone, falling appears to be a potential strategy to decrease knee loading when individuals must land with a single leg and suboptimal body postures. Here is example: Stephen Curry was falling during the sports. It could indicate that the falling strategy is applicable. So that is all my presentation. So thank you for watching the videos. If you have any questions or comments, please contact with us. We are glad to communicate with you. Thank you so much. Bye.